If you'd like to market your brand to be in the top 1%, you need the 1% marketing formula shared by Ryan Estes. And what's so special about him is that he's spent 10 years helping Fortune 500 executives build category defining marketing campaigns. And now he'll be sharing it with you. So tell us what's the secret to your success and what are the top 5 most special achievements you're proud of?
Welcome to Awakened Titans podcast with Lily Patrascu, mind-blowing conversations with influential business titans sharing how you can manifest abundance, love, joy, success through quantum awakening, quantum manifestation, quantum healing, quantum miracles, exponential business growth, and innovative products and services.
Yeah, Lily, it's wonderful to meet you. I really appreciate coming on your show. I had a really fun time reading all about your accomplishments. It's incredible. So I'm very happy to be here. So my career has been largely based in marketing and specifically in podcasting. I was early to podcasting and I've built a career around it. Now, it's interesting because we're in a time where podcasting is actually growing out of its infancy. So podcasts used to be audio only. Now, obviously, we're doing it on video, and it's providing for just like a massive entry point, particularly for founders, to get their message out, to attract new customers, and to basically become thought leaders and influencers of their own. So, top 5 things I'm proud of. Well, I'm a family guy. So I have 2 kids in high school. I live here in Denver with my wife and my cat. My cat's name is Bird. I'm very proud of her. She's a hard worker. I'm a sportsman. So, if you looked up Colorado guy in the dictionary, you see a picture of me with my pickup truck. And I'm a martial artist. I've studied different martial arts, probably for my whole life, from wrestling to jiu-jitsu to capoeira to Muay Thai. And now, I'm starting to do a lot more yoga and nursing some of these old injuries. So that's just a little bit about me.
Thank you. Tell us your top 5 business achievements.
Business achievements, I've had the opportunity to do a lot of things in my career. So one, I was the first social media marketing company in Denver, Colorado. That was many moons ago. What else? Let's see. I'm put on the spot a little bit. What are my accomplishments? My current project, Kitcaster, went from 0 to $1 million annual run rate in about 12 months. And we went to a $2 million run rate in about 18 months. Largely based on the power of podcasting and founder-led marketing. I have another company called Wildcast, which is an influencer marketplace. We've raised about $1 million. I'm very proud of that company and the work we're doing over there. How many is that? 4?
Yeah.
And the other, I think I've worked really hard to create a company culture that is supportive and inclusive and welcoming and warming, particularly as we're all kind of navigating the challenges of working remote. I think those are probably my biggest career accomplishments that I'm proud of.
Thank you. You mentioned marketing led by founders, and you came up with the 1% marketing formula. What does that actually mean?
So what we're seeing now is the rise of influencers as a real driver of marketing and sales. Particularly with, these AI agents and AI tools, it's taken a big chunk out of SEO. It's taken a big chunk out of paid media. All of our media is going to be in some way or the other touched up by AI. And so what people are really looking for is authenticity. So we have a very competitive marketplace where, you have 2 tools that you look at them and one has a flat blue logo and the other one has a flat light blue logo. What's the difference between these 2 tools? Well, oftentimes it's the founder's story, so people will make a decision on whether to make a purchase based on the story they know about the company. And so that all comes to head kind of at the founder. So what we do is help founders kind of define their message to really hone in on their ideal customer and then build media around them, both earned, borrowed, and owned media. So really that's the 1%. I am in the business of making founders, giving them a new revenue line, which would be, what we call NIL. name, image, and likeness deals. So there's a whole spectrum from somebody who's just getting in front of the camera, in front of the microphone, all the way to be kind of like have a 360 brand deal where actually brands are kind of coming to them to get their endorsement. And really, that's, I think, what I've made a career around.
Wow, that's fascinating. So how can entrepreneurs get started with this formula of founder-led marketing so they can be in the top 1% of brands online?
You bet. The first thing is you're going to need some help, and I'm happy to help anybody who wants to reach out to me. I'm available through my blog or through LinkedIn or whatever, or perhaps you have a marketing team. But it's a bit of a shift. You're building a company, you get to, $1 to $3, $4 million annual run rate, and you've got a marketing department. But largely, they're going to be doing kind of branded channel marketing for the company. But you're going to want to splinter off some of those resources to start developing your own personal brand. And there's some challenges that come along with that. There are big emotions that come along with that, because presenting yourself online, now you're an expert at this, Lily, but you probably got really good at it by getting some reps. So you're going to have to get in there, get some reps, get comfortable, talking about yourself, talking about your company, and really starting to define who you would like to present to the world. So this is something I call an ideal online persona. And we all kind of have this, whether we recognize it or not. So if we're unaware about the image that we're presenting online, you might fumble, you might drop the bag, you might make some mistakes. Now, you're always going to make some mistakes, but if you're intentional about it, you have a much higher likelihood of being successful. So really the first step is to start to think about, who do I want to be online? And I like to kind of begin that exploration with, how do I want to make people feel? Maya Angelou talked a lot about, she had a famous quote, and that was, people don't remember what you said, they remember how you made them feel. So if you start there, you can start to reverse engineer the way you'd like to present online. And it gives you a little bit more agency as you're starting to establish your online presence.
Thank you. For entrepreneurs who want to be fun online and still present a very professional image and still present a vulnerable image, what do you recommend they do?
Fun and vulnerable. I love both of those attributes. Those are great. I think the world needs a lot more of that, So I think if you're going for fun and vulnerable, what you want to do is start with a model. Find somebody else who is doing it successfully and kind of make it a science experiment. Look at them. What are they doing well? How are they projecting that? Fun, you're going to have attributes of being friendly, and welcoming and fun. Or I'm sorry, welcoming and considerate, we'll say, and so that's a good way to do it. And so what you do is you start to kind of parrot what they're doing and see how that feels. So, and this goes for any attribute. It's good to have a base model that you can kind of balance, your own behavior so that you're not out there, swinging blindly.
Thank you. For those entrepreneurs that are relatively laid back and they still want to reach entrepreneurs that are making multi-millions, how do you suggest that they go about it? For example, imagine someone who is quite laid back in terms of their appearance, not really wearing like brands or, like not really having this ultra fancy, elegant look and still wanting to appeal to ultra high net worth individuals. Is there a way they can do that, or they need to just kind of get their image up to scratch in terms of looking ultra elegant so they can connect with those type of individuals on a level, on a frequency that the ultra high net worth individuals would understand?
Yeah, it's probably the tribe. I work with a lot of technical founders. So these folks are probably, I wouldn't describe them as elegant. They're much more accustomed to like glowing rectangles like we're in right now than talking with people, particularly in real life. But I think there's a way to be kind of put together in a simple way that will signal, because if if you're asking me, your target audience here is high net worth individuals. And if that tribe you're going for are, Silicon Valley startup founders or VCs, that kind of people, then you probably do want to like scale it back a little bit. I think Zuckerberg is a good example. Well, in a previous life of somebody who just wore a gray t-shirt every single day, the same gray t-shirt. Now he's changed a little bit. He's like added a little Miami to his wardrobe. So he's got a gold chain. He's got like a cool shirt on. He's got some curly hair. But for a long time, the signal he was sending is like, I don't have time to spend on my look. Rather, I'm going to simplify this decision and make it every single day. So in that case, there is almost a uniform of being kind of simple and, like you said, laid back. Now, there's another side to like high net worth individuals that's like a little bit more formal, a little bit more flashy, So I'm not an expert on styling on that, but I assume, again, you can look into it. Now, I am very interested in men's fashion. I've been trying to work on a look lately, that I'm considering. I'm calling it Colorado Bruce Wayne, So you can see I kind of have a bat cave going here. I'm kind of dressed in dark colors because I always felt like Bruce Wayne has just this subtle elegance. And of course, he's obviously very high net worth, but I want to put a Colorado spin on it. So I think when people are considering like how they're presenting online, the aesthetic plays a big portion of it. The other thing that I've done, and I recommend to the folks I work with, is to really level up as far as audio video. We're talking here on Zoom, and I've got this digital mirrorless camera that gives a nice crisp 4K image. I've got a nice microphone and a preamp that gives really solid audio. Because after all, I'm going to be ugly, but I might as well be really clear when I'm ugly. You know what I mean?
Yes, thank you. What's a good way for entrepreneurs to get brand deals that will enable them to elevate their marketing and their business?
You bet. Now, this is actually a new principle. Like founders, particularly B2B influencers, haven't thought of a revenue line as being kind of like brand deals, but they're available out there. And, my company Wildcast, that's exactly what we do is we shop brand deals for B2B influencers. So the first thing you really have to do is you have to gather an audience somewhere, whether that's a podcast, whether that's a YouTube channel, maybe that's a newsletter, maybe you're hot on TikTok, on X. You have to gather an audience. And you really want to get that audience up to about 50K and beyond. We have ways to help people get to that 50K. And then once they're there, that's when they're ready to start shopping deals. So I think really the first step is, if you're considering brand deals as, a B2B thought leader, is refining your message, building that audience, and then, seeing what kind of kindred and compatible brands might be out there for you. We kind of filled this space because what we know about, business leaders is they don't have a lot of time to go shop deals, and it's kind of a burgeoning market. So, you also need help to have somebody go out there and negotiate the deals on your behalf.
Thank you. Do you also help entrepreneurs to find speaking opportunities that are paid for them to promote their business, but at the same time talk about something that the companies care about?
We have partners, absolutely, that will help book speaking engagements. That's not exactly our wheelhouse. So we use partners to help people book speaking engagements. But, that's another place that people have built audiences, is speaking engagements and books. There's kind of a very well-developed kind of sales funnel there for thought leaders. And that those people, I think, are primed largely because, man, if you can stand on stage and talk to people, you can do just about anything in media. That seems like the scariest. I've had a couple opportunities to speak on stage, and it's absolutely terrifying. So everything else is easy.
Wow, amazing. Tell us more about the 1% marketing formula. What does it entail exactly in terms of what you haven't said already?
Well, that's a secret sauce, I could tell you, but then we could never publish this podcast. No. Really, it's a process, and everyone enters the process in a different place. Some people are really big in borrowed media, so that could be like a speaker. Somebody may be really big in owned media, like, hey, I've got 1 million people on my newsletter list. It's like, wow, okay, great, we can enter there. You've got podcasters; they've built a big audience there. Based around the brand of their podcast, typically. So what we want to do is start to splinter off the brand identity to the person. So it's customized. We have definitely systems and processes to make it more palatable, a little bit easier for people coming into it. But really, it's on a case by case basis because, and I suppose that's what also differentiates us is it's a very white glove service. If you're talking about building a personal brand with somebody, there's a lot of emotion that goes into it, and there's a lot of care. So, the getting to that top 1% isn't always that easy. And what I mean by easy is there's an emotional lift that goes into it. So we kind of pick up with folks where they're at and see how we can best serve them.
Thank you. For the clients that you currently work with, what are their top challenges and how do you help solve them?
You bet. I think for influencers in particular, thought leaders, distribution is always the biggest challenge. A lot of people, you hit the algorithm hard on TikTok, you amass a good audience, but you lose the algorithm and you lose your audience. So it's creating repeatable processes. And so, we highly recommend both newsletters and podcasting because those are owned media channels. Podcasting in particular is a very powerful lever, pardon me, because you're not subject to the algorithm of social media. Because if you look at TikTok or Instagram in particular, is that even social media anymore? You're not really getting your friends and family as much as you're just getting whatever the algorithm feeds you. And it's great because, it'll keep you on your phone scrolling for hours. But podcasts are still run in a chronological order. So if you just think about like somebody subscribes to this podcast, they got to seek out Lily, they have to subscribe to the show, and then they have to intentionally hit play to listen to this episode. So you have all of this opt-in where people are like, I want to consume this, and then they're going to spend a half an hour, 45 minutes with you at a time. So the value of that audience is very, very high because it's not just feeding you something they think you want, pardon me, rather they're actually deciding to consume that content, and that's why, podcast as far as an advertising channel has some of the highest conversion rates you can see in marketing.
Wow, I didn't know that. What's a good way to find some of the best podcasting platforms to be featured on?
Like different podcast shows? Funny you should ask. So my company, Kitcaster, does exactly that. So we work with funded startup founders, entrepreneurs with exits, C-suite executives, and we book them on the world's top podcasts as it pertains to the outcomes they're looking for. So for founders, sometimes they're really looking for runway. So we can send them on shows that have audiences that might be interested in doing a deal with them. All of them are always looking for customers. So you find niche podcasts that gives them opportunity to potentially sell in like a non-salesy way, to the audience of that show. So, Kitcaster is a great resource for people that are looking to actually go on podcasts like that. Now, as far as like a good recommendation engine for podcasts, I think there's a big opportunity here for a product because I don't see a lot of that happening. If you open up Spotify, you open up Apple Podcasts, it's kind of just like a morass of different podcasts that they're trying to recommend you. And it's very hard to search to find specific things. So, where I find like good recommendations would be like Reddit or like newsletters. People will say like, hey, check this out. Or if you hear like a great guest, you can go listen to their podcast. That's another way to do it. But still, I think there's an opportunity here for a really good recommendation engine. If somebody wants to build that tool, let me know.
Thank you. What are some of your biggest secrets related to becoming part of the top 1% in terms of building a brand that will be in that top 1% of brands online?
The big secret for somebody who wants to enter that top 1% is you're going to make some mistakes. It's not always going to be pretty. But I feel like, presenting, talking, doing videos, making content, putting yourself out there as the figurehead for your brand, you get better with reps. The more you're out there, the more that you can work towards mastery. And truly, you can see that the people that are on the top, they really have mastered it. If some people have talent and then some people have developed those skills. I really like looking at like Alex and Leela Hormazi, and kind of all the other folks that build in public where they kind of let the warts show. They're like, hey, I'm going to be a little bit clumsy here. So, the secret way is that there's no fast pass. If you have the good fortune to be physically beautiful, great for you. If you have the natural talent to be able to speak and be entertaining to people, good for you. But for most of us, we got to work at this. You got to put in the reps. Ugly cry every now and again, and in time, if you stay kind of dedicated to it, you're going to get better.
Thank you. What's a good way to convert clients when you are on a top podcasting platform? You
have a call to action. Just have a place that's kind of low friction for somebody to go to. I love recommending, podcasts. So Lily, if you went on somebody else's podcast, you can always just say, hey, you got to follow my show. I'm doing it over here. You can go subscribe, because to your point, like, people are always looking for recommendations. And if they really connect with you, that's probably the easiest conversion to get a podcast listener is by going on other people's shows. I think where people kind of drop the ball is if it's just too complicated. When people are listening to a podcast, rarely are they going to go to their phone, click a link, use a promo code, this and that. You want to be able to do something that's memorable quickly so that you have a good chance at conversion.
Thank you. How did you find the top 1% marketing formula? How did you kind of figure it out?
Blood, sweat, and tears. I wish there was an easy way, but I've been working in marketing in some capacity 15 or 20 years, and just slowly over time by having an agency, and your clients really demand results. Otherwise you go under that. I've developed techniques, tactics, strategies that have proven themselves for years and years, to the point now where I think we're up over 800 different founders that we've worked with and kind of put them through these paces.
Thank you. Tell us some of your case studies of clients you've worked or companies you've worked that you can share. And how did that work in terms of working with you?
You bet. I'm trying to, I'm not a big name dropper.
Just give us like an example of this client did this, or you know what I mean?
Sure. Absolutely. So, founders are looking for runway. They're looking to raise some money for their business. So we've had people that got on a podcast, talked about the project they're working on, and had done a 7-figure raise from a listener. Listener was like, hey, what's up? Emailed them and they did the deal. We've had people that have launched their own podcasts to millions of subscribers based on the success they had as being a guest. We've had other folks that had self-published books that sold thousands of units by going on podcasts. So kind of, you name it, everyone kind of comes to the table with like a little bit different order, and we really do the best we can to get them the results they're looking for. Trying to think of some other ones, lots and lots of opportunities for people that find customers or find partners. We've had people connect with co-founders. Oftentimes that people will, in an interview or a situation like this is our first introduction, Lily. We've never met each other before. And so it's a great icebreaker. So sometimes the relationship with the podcast host is actually what bears the most fruit. Hey, we ended up hooking up. Now I'm a client of hers. She's a client of mine. We're working on this together. I hear about those stories all the time.
Thank you. What's a good way for a podcast entrepreneur to have millions of viewers and subscribers for his or her podcast? Start
out being famous. If you're not famous already, then expect it to take some time. But kind of an omni-channel approach is probably the best way. Now, if you wanted to build LinkedIn subscribers or X subscribers, you got to do the same thing. You got to be on X, you got to be on LinkedIn, and it takes some time. There's things that you can do to make the numbers a little bit stronger. for sure, but it's going to take some time. Now, the benefit of doing it with podcasting is, again, like, you own the audience. You take it with you. It's not dependent on, okay, LinkedIn is not giving me the distribution. You will always have that distribution, particularly if you're providing good content. So I think great content is always rule number one. Consistency, you got to stay in the pocket, make sure you're delivering. If you want to get 1 million subscribers and you're not famous, then I suggest that you have like a very specific niche that you're catering to, so that you understand their hopes, dreams, and fears. You understand what motivates them, and ultimately what's going to make them really respond to your content, and then just sticking with it.
Thank you. What have been the most exciting, most impactful social media strategies you have used in order to implement this 1% marketing formula for yourself?
You bet. Social media and what I'm doing, making videos and doing podcasts and stuff, is crucial, because that's where you get massive distribution, or not. So I've had videos that I put out, we're talking about repurposed snippets from interviews just like this. Chances are, I'm sure you're going to republish this onto social. I'm going to republish this over on social. So, when you sit down and you're like, what am I going to post on TikTok? I can't dance. You know what I mean? I can't do that. But what I can do is use these videos and publish them. So I've had, some videos I'll publish and it gets 32 views. And then I have others that have 250,000, and it's hard to predict exactly, why that is. I like to say only Mr. Beast knows how to predictably get like all those views. But every once in a while they pop. So, social media wise, I like people participating in TikTok, because that is the place that you can actually have some virality still. It's very hard to get distribution on Instagram now. It just really is. YouTube shorts have some opportunity. And then if you have some like really good value bombs, then LinkedIn, particularly for B2B professionals, then that can be a great channel for you as well.
Thank you. For your clients, what did you find were the most exciting campaigns or social media strategies they have used in order to increase their subscribers?
Yeah, as far as strategically, it really comes down to like understanding a multi-channel approach. Folks are coming to work with me, then they're already bought in on podcasting, on videos. Strategically, they're understanding that, being the leader of the organization means like doing that in public, like pulling back the curtain a little bit, and then tactically, okay, what are the channels at our disposal? And it really becomes, writing great copy. It becomes making some great videos. It becomes writing a great newsletter that people want, and owning that with your name. And that's a little bit scary. It takes a little bit of bravery, I think, for founders to really step out and put themselves in front, because there is an emotional lift that you're entering when you do that.
Thank you. How do you manage to deal with these super, high earning, high net worth entrepreneurs? Isn't it a little bit scary? And if it is, how do you cope with that on an emotional level? Do you, pump yourself up in the mirror and say, wow, I'm so gorgeous, and I'm about to have this great meeting right now with, Mr. X, or or you're just like a naturally confident, charismatic guy, and you don't need that kind of pump before you kind of meet new people that are making multi-millions?
Yeah, I've had good fortune to work with, very, very affluent, wealthy people, billionaires. And so, there is a little bit of butterflies, like, whoa, what is a billionaire like? Are they like, the Avengers or something? But there's a thread that goes through them, and that they have this ambition. So usually the first question I ask them is, I'm like, dude, why are you still working, man? What are you doing? Why aren't you on the beach? For a little icebreaker, I suppose, with anybody new. And the fact of the matter is they have all the same hopes, dreams, fears, anxieties, and insecurities that all of us do. And so, when you're working with, let's just call them wealthy people, I think there's a veneer that they're looking to put down. They're especially if they're trying to be vulnerable and they're trying to be fun. It's like, wow, I'm bringing in the weight of this success, no one's going to cry for me, right? So, as for me personally, I love talking to people. I never had a real hard time connecting with somebody, depending on like where they're coming from. Aside from like really pretty ladies, that's hard. Sometimes I stammer and stumble. I've been married to my wife now for 20 years, just about. And I remember our first date was the same thing. I opened the front door, and if it hadn't been for my roommate helping me out, I never would have gotten through that conversation. But that's to say that, like, I think that affirmations are a great idea. I think also, like, if you're going into let's say you're going on a speaking engagement, you're going on a podcast. I'm going to meet Lily for the first time. I want to make sure I'm representing myself well. Get your blood rate up. Do a couple body weight squats. Do a couple, push-ups. Get the blood moving, make sure you're comfortable and well. And oftentimes that'll kind of shake off the nerves. Now, I also think that a great component of like doing videos like this, doing interviews like this is the butterflies in your belly actually bring out some of your best material. There is an amazing attribute of just improvisation that comes from like meeting something new and talking through different whatever you're talking about. It has the opportunity to like really bring out your best. And I think that's why, doing interviews is so much more fun than like trying to stage a video. I've done both, and staging a video, very scary, very hard to act naturally because like you have a script you're rehearsing and things like that. So, if I was to make a recommendation for folks, and you're feeling the butterflies, good. That's going to like make the conversation better. And if you want to make sure that, you're enhancing your own performance, get your blood rate up a little bit, don't break a sweat, but get your blood rate up a little bit.
Thank you. What's a good way to overcome fear in the sense of not letting it kind of stop you from taking the action to take that will lead you onto a massive success?
What's a good way to overcome fear? That's a good question. Maybe becoming compassionate to the fear and acknowledging that fear is normal and natural. And, I think the definition of bravery is being afraid and doing it anyway. You can't really get rid of fear, can you? But maybe you can temper it a little bit. So, personally, I think, working in training in martial arts gave me a relationship with fear, because sparring and fighting and things like that are absolutely terrifying. And you start to understand how fear moves from your mind into your body and how you hold your body when you're afraid. Now, how I'm feeling in my mind, being afraid, there's not much I can do with that. But when I feel the fear in my body, there is something I can do with that. I can be aware of it, and I can kind of breathe through. So oftentimes for me, if I'm afraid, I can feel a stiffness in my traps. I can feel a heat on my neck, So if I focus on the heat in my neck and start to kind of breathe through it, I'll notice that heat and tension will dissipate a little bit. And as that body sensation dissipates, so does the emotional and mental response to fear. So I don't know. I don't know exactly like how to not be afraid, but rather maybe it's just becoming, having a relationship with fear and seeing if you can work with it as opposed to against it.
Thank you. Tell us where entrepreneurs can find you.
You bet. You can find me on LinkedIn. If you look up Ryan Estes, I'm there all the time. I'm on Twitter. I'm everywhere. Maybe the best place is just check out my website. It's ryanestes.info. And there I write editorials and I write tips and tricks for founders. And of course, you can get in contact with me there as well.
I think you have a gift. You have a gift.
A gift?
Yeah. I think it says here, if you're an 8-figure business, raised $10 million or Fortune 2000, book a free 30-minute strategy session to learn the top 3 founder-led marketing trends reshaping 2025, plus the exact framework that you use to help the world's most loved brand stay on top. Then they should go where to get this?
ryanestes.info. And do it quick because my web developer is pulling that down pretty soon. My schedule got, you put your calendar on the website, boy, it got booked quick. So I'm going to leave this up for your audience to go check that out. And if you would like to schedule a call with me, I'm definitely happy to talk to you. Just tell them Lily sent you.
Follow us for more interviews with world's most influential business titans, providing you with the insights to awaken to your full potential so you can get paid to be yourself, find true happiness, and manifest anything you desire.